welcome to my new C7 Grand Sport. I'm finally doing a video of me driving this thing. I'm really excited to share my feedback with you guys thus far. The car is still not broken in yet. I'm just over 360 miles right now. I'm actually on my way to pick up oil to do the oil change at 500 miles, which I should be able to get to today. And then I'll do some driving impressions after that once it's fully broken in. But for now, I want to talk about initial impressions just in terms of the interior, kind of the amenities, and talk about some of the packages that are on this car. So it's obviously a C7 Grand Sport, brand new to this year, 2017. This is a 2LT, which is kind of the middle tier. I think that's the greatest package for your money. 3LT adds a little bit nicer leather and some other little things that honestly aren't noticeable. By looks, only a few people can tell the difference between 3LT versus 2LT. Then you get like another little feature in terms of like a quilted headliner. For $4,000, I don't think it's worth it. You get all the technology for the most part in terms of heads-up display, parking cameras, higher sound system, all that stuff with the 2LT. So that's really the money one. I would not recommend buying the 1LT. Again, it doesn't look bad, but it just doesn't have a lot of the technology that I think is awesome, like the heads-up display. That, in my opinion, is kind of a no-brainer, especially when it's not as good as the Corvette's is with the color, and it does all sorts of things like navigation, G-meter, speed, gear, obviously RPMs as well, so all that type of stuff. But I don't want to go through stats with you guys. You can look at a million other videos for that. I'm not a big fan of rambling off stats that everyone's heard a million times. It's pretty boring and a waste of time. What I can give you is my opinion so far of the car. This one has the competition sport seats, so you can see those there. It's got a little bit bigger bolstering. It's also got the cutouts for the harness, which I think look really fucking badass. I probably won't put the harnesses in because I don't track that much, but for the couple days a year I do on the track, I do want the little bit crazier bolstering. And for my weight, I weigh about 165, 170 pounds. I fit perfectly in this. And having talked to the dealership that I bought it from, they're huge Corvette fanatics. The guy I bought from actually has a hat. He's purchased 4 or 5 C7 Z06s in the last 3 years. So he's very familiar with the seats in all the models. He was saying for most people that are 6 foot and a little bit larger, over 200 pounds, like, you do not want these seats. They're just not very comfortable. For me, I would say that that's not the case. They fit amazing. But I will say the base seat is surprisingly, it's got enough bolstering. So even if you're doing some performance driving with the base seats, you'll probably be fine. So this is more a little bit aesthetic for me, as well as, again, they do fit me well. So I would say go for the option. It's $2,000. You're not going to be kicking yourself if you get the base seats though. So if you're trying to find the right package on the lot, which is what I had to do, this was literally the only the only car with competition seats, and that was kind of big for me, as well as the color and kind of the overall combinations. So this is a Watkins Glen gray. I actually wanted the Admiral blue, which I think looks amazing, but the gray had the most packages that I wanted, and it also looks fucking badass, and most people, I believe it's probably one of the most popular colors, so if I'm going to sell this in a couple of years, that will help out as well, versus when you order kind of obscure colors. Not that blue's too obscure, but it starts to be kind of on the spectrum that's less common, a little bit tougher, and I know that from my Atomic Orange Z06 that I sold. It looked amazing in my opinion, but it's not necessarily everyone's cup of tea, so having something that's a little bit more common for resale purposes is always good. Entertainment system is awesome. It sounds really good. It's not as close. It's not quite on par with like my M4 or the R8. In my opinion, is like the best sound system I've ever heard in a car. The Bang & Olufsen in there, and it should be for a $160,000 car. But this is really good. And again, it's such a small car anyway that it sounds really. It's pretty intense. It's got a lot of power for being a stock stereo. Heads-up display I mentioned is awesome. The digital gauges are incredible in my opinion. I think they look really good. They have great pixel density, so it's a really crisp display both on the center stack as well as over here. I believe they're 7-inch displays. My one gripe with the entertainment thing is the UI is great. It's easy to navigate. It looks a little weird, so not the biggest fan of that. But if you're in CarPlay, the Apple CarPlay, then you won't really be. It's not going to pertain to you too much. That being said, though, the touch display, I believe it is a pressure sensitive. It's not electrostatic like an iPhone or most phones. They'll actually use electricity from your hand. They don't use that. I believe this is pressure, so you have to push kind of hard sometimes in order for it to register. But once it does, it clicks and goes right away. It's fast. Faster than, I think the 2016 and earlier had a little bit different processor, so I've heard that this one's a little bit snappier to migrate through, which is good, or navigate through rather. So big fan of that. And again, it's got lots of functionality. It's very easy to use. The drive modes in this car are awesome. The one thing I don't like, again, is that you can't customize it as much as I would like. So there's 5 different modes, there's tons of different traction controls and whatnot, but you can't choose like, hey, I want the loudest exhaust mode on the touring level. Or you can do that, except it'll be stuck across all modes. So you can't tether each individual mode on its own. It's more kind of doing a blanket setting. So like exhaust always open on track mode, or exhaust always quiet versus track, versus saying, hey, I want touring mode to be loud and maybe sport mode, but not wet mode or some of the other modes that are on there. So not quite as configurable. Same thing with the heads-up display. So there's obviously a display there. It's different than this display in front of me on the dash, and you can change the two, but you can't link the two together. So if I go from track mode, it'll have its own track display. But my thing is, I like the sport mode the best for normal driving, but I like the track heads-up display, and I can't have it linked to the sport mode. It'll only show up if I manually select it or go into track mode across the main display here. So little gripes, nothing too crazy. It's probably a little confusing for what I'm trying to explain, but if you have a Corvette, you know what I'm talking about. But other than that, the cabin's a nice place to be. It's not quite on par with like a Porsche or my Audi, but it's ergonomically, it's fantastic. It looks great. It feels good. So I would say no complaints there at all. And the storage is ridiculous. So my Audi is 3.5 cubic feet in the front. This has, I don't even know how much, but it's got to be 4 times the storage in the back. So super practical in terms of if you're going to have one car, which again, my channel is called Daily Supercars, so I have one car that I'm dailying, and not a super sports car or a supercar. I need it to be semi-practical. So that alone, mixed with the fuel economy of this car, can be great from the highway just cruising. It's got cylinder deactivation, so it'll go into a V4, which is awesome. You're looking at like pretty low to mid 30s in terms of consumption there, so that's awesome. And my other thing that was a big factor in me picking this car over some of the other stuff that out there, particularly the Cayman S or GTS, was the Targa roof. So me being able to take that roof off here in California, which most of the time it's not raining, unfortunately today it's kind of wet, so I'm not going to take it off, but that is a huge plus for me. I was able to drive down the coast last weekend on kind of one of my first cruises with the top off, and it was fucking awesome. So being able to hear the car, just kind of be out in the elements, that's a lot of fun. It kind of makes me feel like I'm on a motorcycle or something, where you're out with like the wind in your hair and all that. It's a lot of fun, especially when you have a sports car and you're just ripping down like a back twisty road. So that big fan of. So again, overall impressions: interior is great, seats are awesome, space is awesome, ergonomics are fantastic in this car. And again, even though I haven't really pushed it too hard, the handling is unbelievable. This is the best handling car I've ever driven. It has the most grip of any car I've ever driven by a good margin. The steering, it feels great. It is electronic, but the weighting is really nice, and it's very communicative in the corners. I mentioned that the R8 in some previous videos, it's a little numb on center. So when you're cruising down the highway and you're not making big turning adjustments, it's not going to load up, and it feels very floaty, which I really dislike, especially if you're going to go kind of quick. If you're going to be touching triple digits, you definitely want to have something that, in my opinion, feels a little bit more planted. You can kind of feel the car more versus you can only feel it in the corner. Which, when you're on the back roads, it feels great in the twisties, but this car feels good in every position, which I'm a really big fan of. So was the M4. The M4 steering I thought was excellent. So even though it's electronic, it had a lot of feedback in it, and as well as, again, the weighting was right. So big fan of the Corvettes. And since the steering wheel is smaller than, let's say, the C6, the previous generation of my Z06, it's just so quick, and the car handles so fucking flat. It's ridiculous. The mag ride is amazing. So it's pretty supple. It's definitely a lot softer than my M4 was. Maybe a little firmer than the Audi R8. That also has mag ride with a different caliber, different variety, but both of them are excellent. So if you ever have a chance, or any vehicle you're purchasing, whether it be a Mustang or a higher level car that has optional mag ride, in the Grand Sport there's usually a standard, thank God, but if it is optional, definitely check that box because it's unbelievable. I'm sure you've heard that a million different times from other people. So again, big fan of the ride quality. And again, just overall, this is a fantastic car for the money. So performance, again, is yet to be determined. I haven't really been able to open up yet, but even up to the 4,000 RPM red line that I'm inflicting on myself right now because of the break-in period. It's still got so much low-end grip, low-end grunt rather, that it feels plenty fucking quick. It's also got 60 foot-pounds more torque than my R8, so it doesn't necessarily feel underpowered to that car, even though that car's making 60 extra horsepower. So one day if I ever get bored and I want some extra power, I can definitely do long tube headers, intake, and if I really want some power, do a cam. But for now, this is more than enough, and it's just very well sorted. So yeah, look forward to some more videos. Feel free to comment, ask any questions. I always try to be quick to respond to those because I want people that are looking at this car or others that I've owned to have a chance to be able to ask some feedback from someone that's had quite a few cars, motorcycles, all that stuff. So feel free to send comments and subscribe and go from there. But thanks for tuning in, guys. Cheers.